Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are completely rethinking the future of work. You know, when we picture the future economy, we usually imagine these highly automated factories, crazy fast production lines, and maybe AI taking over all the manufacturing, right? But what if the true future of work isn't just about making new stuff, but actually meticulously preserving, maintaining, and really caring for what we already have?
Here's what's on our agenda today. First, we'll look at the performance economy shift. Second, preserving value with Swiss mechanics. Third, corporate resilience through DuPont training. Fourth, rewarding prevention with U.S. firefighters. And finally, rewiring our future workforce. So what do mechanics, chemical factory workers, and firefighters all have in common? Okay, let's dive into this and find out.
Section 1. The performance economy shift. Moving from volume to long-term maintenance.
Think about this for a second. What if we actually paid workers to prevent problems instead of fixing them after they happen? It's a question that completely challenges our deepest preconceived notions about what productivity actually means. Because, you know, in our traditional economy, growth is basically measured by volume. We pay people to produce goods, and then later on down the line, we pay people to fix those exact same goods when they inevitably break. But what happens to our workforce when the ultimate goal is to literally never let the system break down in the first place?
Well, welcome to the performance economy. This is an economic model that is entirely focused on caring for and maintaining the value, utility, and purity of existing stocks. And honestly, the fundamental distinguishing factor here is that one word: caring. In a traditional linear industrial economy, caring is basically an unknown concept, right? But here, caring for natural, human, and manufactured capital is the entire objective, the whole shebang. And what's super interesting is that human capital, people, is actually our only resource that degrades if it goes unused, but improves dramatically with training.
Now, what's really interesting about this model is a crucial intersection right at its foundation. It combines O&M skills, that's operation and maintenance, with OEM skills, the original equipment manufacturer. When you combine the really deep, specialized knowledge of the original manufacturer with the hands-on, everyday user experience of maintaining it over years, you unlock a completely new business model: selling function guarantees. You aren't just selling a machine anymore, you're selling the absolute guarantee that the machine will never stop working. And to pull that off, you need a radically rewired workforce.
Which brings us to Section 2, preserving value with Swiss mechanics, restoring the past.
So as manufacturing shifts more towards preservation, we're realizing something pretty alarming. These caring skills simply don't exist in traditional manufacturing anymore. Entirely new education programs have to be created from scratch, and Switzerland is a real pioneer here. They've defined a completely new professional domain, complete with federal diplomas, for old-timer vehicle restorers. These apprentices learn to meticulously work on vintage vehicles from 1945 to 1990. But, and here's the kicker, they don't just learn one narrow task. They actually have to master cross-disciplinary skills. We're talking automotive engineering, car body kinsmithing, and the incredibly precise art of the car body paint shop. They aren't just mechanics. They are basically project managers preserving technical cultural assets.
And hey, if you think this is just a cute niche hobby for weekend enthusiasts, think again. 12 billion pounds. In the UK alone, the estimated value of the 3 million classic and historic cars on the road is 12 billion pounds. That is a massive number. And get this, preserving those cars supports 113,000 jobs. Value preservation absolutely isn't a side gig. It is a highly lucrative, massive economic driver that requires incredibly skilled human inventors and restorers.
Let's move to and see how this builds. So we've seen how upskilling workers preserves the immense value of the past. But how does rewiring our workforce protect massive companies in the future?
Section 3. Corporate resilience with DuPont training, preparing for the unexpected.
Picture a traditional hyper-specialized factory. You've got one worker right next to one machine, and they are laser-focused on maximizing short-term output. It's all about speed. But the chemical giant DuPont takes a completely different approach: multi-skill training. Because they deal with explosive and highly hazardous chemicals, DuPont realized early on that true safety requires a long-term systemic view. So they actually mandate that each employee must be able to exercise several essential functions across the entire company. Now sure, this focus on multi-skill safety might restrict those immediate short-term economies of scale, but it creates something so much more vital: incredible, rock-solid, long-term corporate resilience.
And the real-world payoff of this strategy? It's absolutely astounding. Think back to the first SARS epidemic in Asia in the year 2000. While a ton of other companies were completely paralyzed and forced to just
shut down their operations entirely? DuPont didn't close a single factory. Not one. Why? Because they had completely rewired their workforce to be multi-skilled problem solvers. Management could effortlessly reassign healthy people to cover all the essential workstations. By training for prevention and resilience, they survived a major global crisis totally uninterrupted. Their internal culture of actually caring for the operational system ensured they could weather the storm without missing a beat.
From corporate resilience, we transition to our final and perhaps most mind-bending case study. How do you fundamentally reverse human behavior and incentives?
Section 4. Rewarding prevention. Reversing incentives.
For a really long time, professional firefighters in U.S. cities were promoted based on a highly traditional metric, their professional fire experience. Basically, if you were an officer in a district with frequent, massive fires and you successfully contained those major losses, you got promoted. Good job, right? But think about that underlying incentive for a second. You are literally rewarding the presence of disaster. To fix this backward logic, they reversed the structure completely. Today, a firefighter's main task is visiting hazardous sites and giving advice to reduce risks before anything happens. Promotion is now given to officers in districts with very few fires because of their excellent prevention activities. So the crucial point is, we are now promoting workers for the disasters that didn't happen. It's brilliant. Section 5. Rewiring our future workforce. People as inventors. To really build a mature, circular economy, it requires totally new skill sets. As we've learned today, human capital actually degrades if left unused, but man, it improves endlessly with training. We have to shift our entire focus from short-term production to long-term care. We need to prioritize reskilling, kind of like our Swiss mechanics, and completely embrace multi-skilled training, just like DuPont, to build true corporate resilience. And finally, taking a page out of the U.S. firefighters' playbook, we must actively reward loss prevention way over crisis intervention. Our people are the true inventors of this new economy, and their ability to care for and maintain our world is hands down our single greatest asset. Which leaves us with one final pretty provocative question to chew on. How does your industry reward prevention, and are you ready to rewire your workforce? It's a huge paradigm shift for sure, but as we've seen today, it absolutely benefits people, profits, and the planet. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some amazing new ideas for your own teams. See you next time.